A real man isn't measured by how many times he falls, but by how many times he rises, stronger than before. And listen closely, because this is the part no one tells you. Nothing bruises the ego more than realizing you let go of something priceless. But here's the twist. They'll never say it out loud. They'll laugh, they'll party, they'll flood their social media with smiles, acting like life has never been better. But behind closed doors, that silence is loud, that emptiness, unshakable. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you'll understand why your absence is louder than any words you could ever say. And if you're ready to step into that power, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Let's get into it. Now, picture this. You're in an art gallery, staring at a masterpiece, the kind that stops you in your tracks. The details, the colors, it's one of a kind. But instead of taking it, you hesitate. Maybe there's something better. Maybe you'll come back later. Days pass, weeks even. Then it hits you. That was the one. You rush back, desperate to claim it. But it's gone, snapped up by someone who saw its value before you did. Now, no matter how many other paintings you look at, nothing compares. That's how regret works. And that's exactly what happens when you walk away and never look back. See, people don't regret losing someone who begged. They regret losing someone who vanished, someone who became unreachable. At first, their ego shields them. They tell themselves they made the right choice. They distract themselves with new faces, new places, empty thrills. They believe they've won. But life has a cruel way of revealing the truth, because no distraction lasts forever. One day, reality sinks in, and when it does, that regret doesn't just knock, it breaks down the door. The biggest mistake people make, trying to speed up that moment, sending messages, hoping for closure, trying to make them see what they lost. But here's the truth. Regret isn't created by words. It's created by absence. The second they realize you're not waiting around, not checking up on them, not giving them a second chance, that's when it starts eating away at them. Because here's the thing, people always believe they have time. They think they can walk away and come back when it's convenient. They assume you'll still be there, still care, still be an option. But when they realize that door is locked forever, that's when it burns. That's when the sleepless nights start. That's when they scroll through old messages, wondering how they let something that real slip through their fingers. This is where Stoicism comes in. Real strength isn't in chasing. It's in letting go, for good. It's in moving so far forward that they can't even see your shadow anymore. And trust me, nothing haunts a person more than knowing they lost someone who leveled up without them. By the end of this, you won't just be someone they lost. You'll be the one they never get back, the one they can't reach, the one who became untouchable. And that, my friends, is real power. That's the kind of energy that keeps them awake at night. So say this with me: I am untouchable. Feel it, own it. And when you're done, hit the like button, subscribe, and let's dive even deeper. Number 1. The regret. They'll never speak about, but can't escape. Regret is a slow, silent poison. It doesn't hit like a lightning strike. It seeps in like a leaky faucet in the dead of night. Drip, drip, drip. At first, it's just a faint sound in the background, easy to ignore. But as time passes, it gets louder, heavier, impossible to drown out. And here's the part no one talks about. They'll never admit it. They'll walk around with their head high, acting like they're just fine. They'll laugh a little louder, post a little more, make it seem like life has never been better. But that's just smoke and mirrors, because deep inside there's a question that won't leave them alone. Did I make a mistake? Imagine this. You walk into a high-end store and spot something rare, something one of a kind. You hesitate. Maybe there's something better. Maybe it's not as valuable as you think. So you walk away, convinced you'll find another, maybe at a lower price, maybe with fewer flaws. Days pass, weeks even. Then it hits you. That was the one. You rush back, but it's too late. Someone else saw the value before you did. And now, no matter how many others you see, none of them feel the same. That's how regret works. It doesn't come instantly. It creeps in when reality shatters the illusion of better. At first, they feel confident. They tell themselves they made the right choice. Friends hype them up. Social media feeds them lies about how moving on means upgrading, and their own ego convinces them they've won. But time is the real teacher. Time strips away distractions. Time forces them to face the truth. And the truth? It never looks like they imagined. See, people expect you to chase. They expect you to break down, to reach out, to prove your worth. That's how the game usually goes. And as long as you play that role, they never feel the loss. But the moment you disappear, the moment you stop proving anything, that's when the regret starts to set in. Regret doesn't come from seeing a long message begging for another chance. It doesn't come from missed calls, grand gestures, or trying to make them see what they lost. It comes from silence, from absence, from realizing they no longer have access to something they once believed would always be there. That's what eats at them. That's what keeps them up at night. And here's the mistake most people make. They expect regret to come fast. They want proof. They want that moment where the other person reaches out and says, "I was wrong." But life doesn't work that way. Regret is a slow burn. It starts as a whisper in the back of their mind, a flicker of doubt they push away. But then it happens. A familiar scent, a song, a place that brings back a memory they swore they forgot. They scroll past your name and, for the first time, hesitate. And that's when it hits them. By then, it's too late. Because the thing about regret, it doesn't just remind them of what they lost. It reminds them that they can never have it back. People don't regret losing someone who begged. They regret losing someone who became untouchable, someone who grew beyond them, someone who didn't just move on, but moved up. And that's the hardest pill for them to swallow, because they won't say it out loud. They won't send that text, won't admit it to their friends, maybe not even to themselves, but you'll see it in the way they suddenly check your stories, in the way they try to reappear like nothing happened, in the way mutual friends mention your name again. But by then, it won't matter, because by the time they realize what they lost, you'll already be too far ahead. Number 2, the more you chase, the further they run. A ruler never begs for loyalty. The second they do, they lose their crown. And yet, that's the mistake most people make. The moment someone walks away, they panic. They send long messages, pouring out their emotions, hoping to make them see the mistake they've made. But here's the truth. The moment you start chasing, you confirm that you're beneath them. And once someone feels above you, respect is gone. Attraction fades. The more you try to pull them back, the further they run. Think about it. If someone was truly valuable, truly powerful, would they ever need to convince someone to stay? Would someone who knows their worth ever beg to be chosen? A king does not chase. A king does not plead. They walk away, and those who belong in their life follow. But fear makes people do the opposite. Fear of being alone, fear of never finding someone better, fear that they've lost something they can't replace. So they scramble. They think, if I just explain, if I just prove how much I care, maybe they'll change their mind. But love isn't built on logic. It's built on emotion, power, and mystery. And once you become predictable, once you make it clear that you're willing to wait, you've already lost. Picture this. You walk into an auction and there's a rare item up for bid. At first, the price is high. Everyone is fighting for it. But then something happens. The bidding stops. The price starts dropping. It's desperate to be sold. Would you still want it? Or would you start wondering, what's wrong with it? That's exactly how attraction works. When you beg, when you make yourself too available, your value plummets. You go from being rare to being desperate. And nothing kills desire faster than desperation. Have you ever noticed that the moment you stop caring, suddenly they start paying attention? That's because attraction doesn't grow in comfort. It grows in uncertainty. It grows in absence. The biggest mistake people make is thinking they can force someone to miss them. You can't. You can only disappear and let time do the work. Most people expect a reaction. They want to feel important. They want to believe they still matter. And when you give them that reaction, when you beg, cry, or try to force a response, you feed their ego. You confirm that they still have control. But when you give them nothing, when you go completely silent, that's when the real battle begins. The less you say, the more noise they hear in their own mind. They start wondering, why didn't they react? Why aren't they chasing? Did I misjudge them? Did I make a mistake? And that doubt, that's the seed of regret. But here's the part. Most people fail. They break too soon. They stay silent for a week, maybe two. But then the emotions take over. They send a message, hoping for any sign that the other person still cares. But that one message, that one slip, erases everything. It tells them, oh, they were just pretending to be strong. They're still waiting for me. And just like that, the power shifts back. So what do you do instead? You vanish. You move forward. You give them no closure, no reassurance, no proof that they still matter. Not to play games, not out of spite, but because you are no longer an option. You become the one thing they never expected. You become a mystery. And nothing is more powerful than that. One day, when the excitement wears off, when the attention fades, when they realize the world isn't as full of endless options as they thought, that's when the regret starts. But by then, it won't even matter. Because while they were busy trying to replace you, you became something they could never reach again. Number 3. The one who controls their emotions controls everything. Power doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from mastering yourself. The moment they walk away, your instincts will scream at you to react, to prove your worth, to make them see what they lost. But that's exactly what they expect. And weak people do exactly what is expected of them. Weak people lash out. Weak people beg. Weak people break. And weak people never change anyone's mind. Imagine a high-stakes poker game. The person across from you is watching your every move, waiting for a sign, a reaction, anything that gives them control. But you give them nothing. No flinch, no hesitation, no emotion. And suddenly doubt creeps in. Did I make the right move? Am I actually winning, or am I about to lose everything? That's the power of emotional control. The second they can't read you, the second they don't know what's going on in your mind, the power shifts in your favor. This is the first move of a Stoic, controlling your emotions, not pretending they don't exist, not burying them under fake smiles, but mastering them. Weak people are ruled by how they feel. Strong people feel everything but let nothing control them. And this is where most fail. They get abandoned and they spiral. They try to force closure, to make the other person see reason. But emotions don't follow reason. And the second you let your emotions dictate your actions, you lose control. Because here's the truth. When someone leaves, they expect you to fall apart. They expect you to double text, to check their social media, to send long messages about how much they meant to you. And when you do, it doesn't make them rethink their choice. It reassures them they made the right one. But when you give them nothing, when you show no reaction, no sign of suffering, that's when the cracks start forming in their mind. Why aren't they broken? Why aren't they chasing? Did I misjudge them? That doubt, that tiny sliver of uncertainty, is the first step toward regret. The truth is, nobody regrets losing someone who begs to be taken back. People regret losing the one they can no longer affect. At first, they don't notice. At first, they think they won. But then, they see you, calm, thriving, untouched by their absence, and something inside them shifts. Because human nature is simple. We only question our choices when reality doesn't match our expectations, and nothing is more unexpected than someone who refuses to be broken. But here's where most people fail. They try to fake detachment, they pretend to move on, but they still check their phone every 5 minutes, still hope for that message, still replay the past in their mind. But you can't fake power. People feel energy. They know when you're truly done and when you're just pretending. That's why true Stoicism isn't an act, it's a mindset. It's accepting what is, not clinging to what was. It's understanding that people come and go, but your self-respect, that stays. So from this moment forward, you react to nothing. No desperate texts, no emotional outbursts, no proving your worth. Just silence and self-improvement, not to get them back, not to make them regret, but because a person who controls their emotions controls everything. It won't be easy. The urge to reach out, to seek closure, to make them understand what they lost, it will be overwhelming. Your mind will try to trick you. Maybe if I just explain, maybe if I remind them of the good times, they'll see the truth. But they already saw the truth, and they still left. Now, the only way they'll ever question their choice is if you become someone they never expected. And that doesn't happen through words. It happens through action, through silence, through becoming something untouchable. Think of it like a kingdom in flames. If the ruler panics, if they lose control, the entire kingdom crumbles. But if the ruler stands tall, unshaken, watching the fire with calm eyes, something strange happens. The fire stops being destruction. It becomes transformation. That's you right now. Everything inside you wants to react. But if you hold your ground, if you refuse to break, the fire that was meant to consume you will only forge you into something stronger. And when they realize you're not shattered, when they see you moving forward as if they never existed, that's when their own emotions turn against them. At first, it's just a passing thought. Then it's a moment of doubt. Then it becomes a storm inside them. Did I make the right choice? Why aren't they suffering? Did I lose someone I'll never find again? They'll never say it. They'll never send that text admitting their mistake. But you'll see it. In the way they suddenly check your stories. In the way their name randomly pops up. In the way mutual friends start bringing them up again. And by then, it won't matter, because you'll already be too far ahead. Number 4. The power of not caring. Why indifference haunts them. The opposite of love isn't hate. It's indifference. Hate still carries emotion. It means they still hold space in your mind. But indifference, that's a black hole, a void, and nothing crushes a person's ego more than realizing they no longer exist in your world. Not your love, not your anger, not even your resentment, just silence. Most people think the worst thing you can do to someone who left is to show them how much they hurt you. They believe that if they cry, argue, or lash out, the other person will finally see their pain. But here's what they don't understand. Regret doesn't come from seeing you suffer. It comes from realizing you don't suffer at all. Imagine standing on a stage, pouring your heart into a performance. You expect applause, maybe even a few boos, but instead, silence, blank faces, no reaction. That, right there, is worse than being hated. At least hatred means you mattered enough to spark emotion. But indifference? That means you were never important at all. And that's exactly how human psychology works. When you beg, when you react, when you try to prove your worth, you are still giving them power. You're showing them that they still affect you. And as long as they know that, there's no reason for them to regret leaving. But when you give them nothing, when they realize they are just another face in the crowd, no different than a stranger passing by, that's when the panic sets in. People want to be remembered. They want to believe they left an imprint on your life. They want to know they mattered. But when they see that you've moved on so completely that they no longer exist in your thoughts, it shakes them to their core. Because deep down, everyone has one fear: being forgotten. At first, they'll pretend not to care. They'll act unbothered, post like they're having the time of their life. But over time, something shifts. They start checking your stories, asking mutual friends about you, lurking in the background, wondering why you're so quiet. They expect you to react. They expect you to reach out. And when you don't, their mind starts turning against them. This is the dark psychology of indifference. When someone feels ignored, they begin to question themselves. Did I make the right choice? Was I really that easy to forget? And that doubt? That's where regret is born. But here's the key. Indifference only works if it's real. You can't fake it. You can't pretend to move on while secretly watching their every move, waiting for them to notice your silence. That's not indifference. That's still being controlled by them. True indifference is walking away so completely that their existence no longer affects you. And yes, at first, it will be hard. Your emotions will pull you back, whispering that you should check their page, see if they regret it yet. But that's not strength. That's your ego looking for validation. Real power is in not needing to know. Because the moment you truly stop caring, the moment you truly let go, that's the moment they start. And the irony, they'll never admit it. They'll never send a text saying, "I regret leaving." Their pride won't allow it. But their actions will expose them. The sudden check-ins, the accidental likes on old pictures, the random conversations where mutual friends casually bring up their name again. That's how you'll know. But by then, it won't even matter, because you'll already be too far ahead. Number 5. The silent rise that haunts them. Move in silence. Only speak when it's time to say, checkmate. Nothing confuses, humbles, or haunts a person more than realizing the one they walked away from didn't just survive, but thrived. And not with noise, not with desperate attempts to be seen, but in complete, unstoppable silence. Most people make the mistake of trying too hard to prove they're doing better. They flood their social media with "I'm living my best life" posts. They drop hints, hoping to make their absence felt. But that's not power. The loudest flex isn't screaming for attention. It's becoming someone so untouchable that they feel your presence even in your silence. Imagine planting a seed. You water it, watch it, check every day for progress. But on the surface, nothing happens. Days pass, weeks, still nothing. Most people give up, assuming the seed is dead. But underground, where no one can see, that seed is taking root. It's growing in ways unseen, building its foundation. Then, one day, without warning, it breaks through the soil. Strong, unshakable. That's how you need to move. Let them think you've disappeared. Let them believe you're still the same. Then, when they least expect it, you emerge. Not as who they left, but as someone they can never reach again. But here's where most people fail. Silence is uncomfortable. The ego craves validation. It wants proof that you're winning. So they rush the process. They seek attention, hoping for a reaction. But by doing so, they show their hand. They reveal that they're still tied to the past. And nothing ruins power faster than proving you still care. True power doesn't beg to be seen. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need validation. It builds in secret, evolves in the dark, and when the time is right, it speaks for itself. Because here's what happens when you truly rebuild in silence. One day, they see you again. Maybe it's a picture. Maybe a mutual friend casually mentions your name. Maybe they cross paths with you unexpectedly. And in that moment, reality hits them. You are not the same. You are someone greater. And that realization, it shakes them in ways words never could. And the best part? By then, you won't even care, because the version of you they walked away from no longer exists. The one who waited, who wondered, who craved closure, that person is gone. But this only works if you commit to the silence. No breadcrumbs, no cryptic posts, no secret games to make them notice. You vanish, not out of weakness, but out of strength. Because when you truly detach, they have no choice but to wonder. And wondering leads to questioning, and questioning leads to regret. And when they finally see you again, when they realize you've built yourself into someone they can never touch again, that's when the weight of their loss truly sinks in. Not because of what you said, not because of anything you did to get their attention, but because you became something so powerful, so untouchable, that their absence meant nothing to you. And that will haunt them forever. Number 6. When you're truly gone, that's when they return. You never lose what walks away. You only lose what you chase. And the moment you stop chasing, the moment you move in silence, the moment you truly let go, that's when something strange happens. The ones who took you for granted, the ones who thought they had better options, the ones who left without a second thought, they start finding their way back. Not because they suddenly realized your worth, not because they've changed, but because life has humbled them. The world they thought was filled with endless choices turned out to be nothing but illusions. And now, when they look around, when they reach for what they once had, they find something terrifying. You're no longer there. Imagine walking through a crowded market, surrounded by vendors selling the same thing. You don't think twice because there are options everywhere. But then, one vendor quietly closes shop. That product is gone, no longer for sale, and suddenly, it's all you can think about. Not because you wanted it before, but because you can't have it anymore. That's how the mind works. People don't truly value something until they can't access it. At first, they won't acknowledge it. They'll tell themselves they made the right choice. They'll distract themselves, filling the void with temporary thrills. But doubt doesn't come crashing down. It seeps in slowly. One day, they hear a song that reminds them of you. Another day, They check your social media just to see what you've been up to. And then, without realizing it, they start asking about you, bringing up your name in conversations, searching for signs that they're still on your mind. And when their pride finally cracks, they reach out. It might not be direct at first. Maybe it's a random like on an old post. Maybe it's a short, casual message. Hey, how have you been? But don't be fooled. It's never just small talk. It's uncertainty. It's them testing the waters, trying to see if the door is still open. And this is where most people fail. The moment that message comes in, they get excited. They think, this is it. They regret it. I won. And in that desperation, they ruin everything. Because the second you act too eager, the moment you make it clear that you were waiting, the power shifts back to them. The regret fades. The game resets. That's why when they return, you don't react. You don't jump at the chance to reconnect. You don't make it easy for them to slide back into your life like nothing happened. You stay calm, collected, like their absence never mattered in the first place. And that's what truly destroys their ego. They expect you to be waiting. They expect relief in your voice, excitement in your tone. But when they get nothing, just quiet, unshaken indifference, that is when the real regret sets in. Because now they don't just miss you, they realize they lost you. But here's the truth. By the time they come back, you won't need them anymore. The version of you they left behind no longer exists. The one who overthought, who waited, who craved their presence. That person is gone. And that's what haunts them the most. Because deep down, people don't regret leaving someone who stayed the same. They regret leaving someone who evolved into something greater, someone they never saw coming. So when they return, and trust me, they will, you don't give them what they want. No validation, no reassurance, just the simple, undeniable truth. You outgrew them. And that's how you truly win. Number 7. When they come back, this is the test. Not everyone deserves a second chance. Some people only exist to teach you how never to be treated again. When they come back, when that message finally appears, when they start testing the waters, this is where most people fail. They mistake their return for victory. They think, this is it. They finally regret leaving. I won. But this isn't a reward. This is the test. And if you don't pass it, you lose everything you've built. Imagine training for years, sharpening your mind, strengthening your soul, transforming yourself into something unbreakable. And then, just as you're standing tall, the same storm that once tore you apart returns. But this time, the battle isn't with them, it's with yourself. Because their return isn't a blessing, it's a challenge to see if you've truly changed, a challenge to see if you still fall for the same tricks, if you still respond to the same patterns, if you still allow them access to what they once took for granted. People don't come back because they've had some deep awakening. They come back because life humbled them, because the options they thought were better turned out to be nothing, because the fantasy they chased led to disappointment. And now, when they look around, they realize they're standing alone. And when they see that you've moved forward without them, they feel something they never expected. Fear. Fear that they lost something irreplaceable. Fear that you've outgrown them. But here's the question. Do they really regret losing you, or do they regret losing the comfort you gave them? Are they back because they've changed, or because they just want to see if they still can? That's why when they return, you don't react. You don't drop everything. You don't give them what they want, immediate validation, proof that they still have a hold on you. You take your time. You watch. not their words, but their actions. Because words are easy. They can apologize, they can promise, they can say they've changed. But real change, that shows in how they move. Do they come back with the same selfishness? The same expectations that you'll let them walk in like nothing happened? Or do they actually show effort, accountability, and a deep understanding of what they lost? And here's the part most people get wrong. You don't let them back in just because they returned. You let them earn their place. You set boundaries. You hold them accountable. You don't make it easy, not to play games, not for revenge, but because you're no longer the person who accepts less than they deserve. And if they don't rise to meet your standards, you walk. No hesitation, no second guessing. Because the real power isn't in getting them back. It's in realizing you don't need them anymore. Number 8, rising beyond them. Becoming untouchable. A person who is whole needs no one to complete them. This was never about them, not their regret, not their return, not even proving anything. It was always about you, about who you become after the storm, about the strength you build when no one is watching, about the unshakable version of yourself that emerges when the past no longer controls you. Because real power isn't found in getting someone back. It's found in reaching the point where you don't need them anymore, when their absence no longer stings, when their presence no longer tempts you, when their regret no longer matters. That's the moment you win, not because you played the game better, but because you left the game entirely. Imagine a warrior training in the shadows. No audience, no applause, no recognition, just quiet, relentless discipline. The world doesn't see the struggle, the pain, the nights spent alone sharpening the mind and spirit. But then one day, that warrior steps into the light, and suddenly the world takes notice, not because he sought attention, but because his presence speaks for itself. That's what it means to be untouchable. That's what it means to rise beyond them. Most people get trapped in the past. They wait for an apology that never comes. They wait for proof that they were right. They check their phone, hoping for a sign. But a person who has truly evolved doesn't wait. They don't waste time seeking validation. They move forward. They create. They become something greater than they ever were before. And when that happens, something shifts. Not just in relationships, but in life itself. People feel it. They sense the change. They see it in the way you carry yourself, in the way you no longer react, in the way you no longer seek approval from anyone. There's a quiet, undeniable power in you, and it draws attention without effort. Because an untouchable person doesn't need revenge. They don't need closure. They don't need validation. They walk away, not because they're running, but because they've outgrown the battlefield. They no longer fight for things that don't serve them. They no longer chase people who don't deserve them. And that's the real victory, not proving them wrong, not making them regret, but becoming someone they never even deserved in the first place. Number 9. Walking away, the final victory. They say the greatest triumph isn't in exacting revenge, it's in embracing indifference. This is the final shift, the turning point where everything changes for you, not for them. At the end of this journey, it was never about making them regret or forcing them to see your worth. It was always about becoming someone so formidable, so unshakable, that their opinions simply melt away. Imagine standing on a bridge at dusk, gazing back at the path you once trod, a path riddled with pain, endless doubts, and a barrage of questions. In that moment, you feel the weight of every setback you endured. And then, with quiet resolve, you turn around and walk away. Not out of anger, not out of bitterness, but with a profound sense of peace. You realize that you never needed them to validate your worth. You only ever needed to believe in it yourself. This is the ultimate shift, a moment when you stop being tethered to their regret, their desperate attempts at a return, their constant need for validation. You let go completely, not because you are weak, but because you've outgrown the past. Many remain mired in yesterday's disappointments, waiting for closure, desperate for even a flicker of acknowledgement that they mattered. But the truly evolved move forward. They build, they create, and they cultivate a life so rich, so vibrant, that glancing back becomes an impossibility. Think of it as a phoenix rising from its ashes. There was a time when the flames of past hurts threatened to consume every part of you, but like the mythical bird, you let the fire refine you. Now, as you spread your wings, you soar far above the remnants of what once held you down. Those who once took you for granted now watch from afar, haunted by the realization that you are no longer within reach. They come to understand that while they clung to old comforts, you were silently crafting a future that they could never fathom. Ask yourself, why should their opinion dictate your sense of self? Why should you wait around for someone who never truly valued you? Their regret is not a prize. It is a sign of their own shortcomings. In the quiet aftermath of your transformation, you discover that the most potent form of victory is to be indifferent to what they think. Your worth isn't defined by their validation, but by the life you've built in your own image. There's an old saying, "A river cuts through rock, not because of its power, but because of its persistence." In the same way, you have persevered through every trial and tribulation, slowly carving out a new existence where you stand alone, yet whole. This isn't about proving them wrong. It's about proving to yourself that you are more than what you once endured. You have grown into a person who walks away without looking back, a person whose silence is a thunderclap of self-assurance. Picture a seasoned warrior, battle-worn yet unbowed, who no longer seeks retribution. Instead, they forge ahead, their every step a testament to the strength built in solitude. The battlefield of life is not won by clinging to the past or by chasing after those who failed to see your worth, but by decisively leaving that arena behind. Each step you take forward drowns out the echoes of the past, and soon the voices that once tried to anchor you begin to fade into oblivion. Now, consider the irony. The more you invest in your own growth, the more you render their regret futile. They might try to reach out, perhaps with a simple "How have you been?" or a half-hearted like on an old post. But you no longer have space for their half measures. Every time you choose to walk away with quiet dignity, you remind them, and yourself, that you are not defined by what you left behind. At this juncture, the past loses its grip, and the power shifts irreversibly into your hands. You are free from the need for their apology, free from the need for their acknowledgement. In this freedom lies the real victory, the knowledge that you are complete on your own. You are free, powerful, and untouchable because you've chosen to walk away rather than be dragged back into old cycles. If you're ready to step into that version of yourself, one who no longer seeks validation and who stands tall in the face of indifference, know that the best revenge is a life well lived, a life where every moment is a declaration of your strength, every breath a testament to your resilience. The past no longer defines you. Their regret no longer matters. You have shifted the balance. You have become the winner simply by walking away and forging a future that is unmistakably your own. Now, if this resonates, take a moment to let that truth sink in. Embrace it. And remember, you were never meant to be just remembered. You were meant to be unforgettable. Stay strong, stay unshakable, and continue building the life that only you can create.